Hello and welcome to a Victory Monday edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Amhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and now on Blue Sky at Hawk Blogger. And it is great as always to be joined by Robert Mays of The Athletic, presented by Pagliacci Pizza each and every Monday. Robert, how are you doing on this fine Monday?
Doing okay. It's holiday week. It's always a little bit of a wrench into the schedule, but enjoying this time of year and happy to be here.
Where does Thanksgiving fit for you in the hierarchy of holidays?
So lower. For the most part, when I was growing up, Thanksgiving was definitely like a second tier holiday. Christmas was everything in my house growing up. My dad loved Christmas. He was like the best gift giver I've ever met in my entire life. We would give no lists, and somehow every single year he would pick like everything we wanted, things we didn't even know we wanted. And it was actually funny. Like, it's not that funny, but after he died, my mom, she tried to do Christmas for the first year, and she tried to do it the same way, where it's like we didn't ask for anything. And after that day, we were just like, you know what, Ma, we'll tell you what to get us from now on. We'll give you lists from now on. My dad, when you're a kid, you don't really know it, but my dad was up till like 4 a.m. building stuff and putting everything together. And then it'd be 7 in the morning on Christmas morning. We'd be like, we get up, like we want to open our presents, not knowing that he was like a 46-year-old man on 3 hours of sleep. So it's changed a little bit as I've gotten more perspective, but that was always number one. So Thanksgiving is very big for my wife's family. So it actually works out very well. So I kind of take the bullet. I go to visit her family on Thanksgiving most years. I'm not going this year because my dog is sick, but for the most part, I go down there every year and it works out very well. So she gets Christmas with my family. I get Thanksgiving with hers.
I want to help you, because we won't be able to edit that out. I think what you meant to say is you get to go to your wife's family on Thanksgiving.
I'm not even saying this because I know she's not going to hear this. I really did do well with the in-laws. I love my in-laws. I love my brothers-in-law. I'm very lucky to have I've married into a family with whom I enjoy spending time, which I know is not necessarily how it always goes. So I feel very fortunate.
That is like a winning lottery ticket there, my friend. Robert, I have to admit, I'm a little surprised you're not a bigger Thanksgiving person, given what I've learned about your palate through this show. I've learned probably as much about your food preferences and your love of autumn food as I have of anything else. So like Thanksgiving should be the pinnacle meal for you, I would think.
I do enjoy Thanksgiving. So here's what we've done the last few years. The last like 3 or 4 years, might be even more than that now. I think like 5 years. We've had a lot of my high school friends are still my friends that live in Chicago. And, they've 8, 10 of us that would all spend a lot of time together and have kept in touch. So we do like a Friendsgiving every single year.
Mhm.
And I cook most of the food for that. I enjoy that one more. I enjoy the food for that one more compared to having my food experience be in the hands of someone else that is not a chef. It's always hit or miss. Like growing up, I was very spoiled because my mom was a really good cook, and I would go over to other people's houses and I would have dinner. I'd be like, you guys eat this all the time? Like this is the quality of the food you eat at home? It was horrifying to me. So going over and eating dinner at someone else's house has always been a bit of a mixed bag. But when I can make my own Thanksgiving food, I enjoy it. And this year, because I'm not going to visit my in-laws, I'm going to spend it with my brother who used to be a chef. And so we're doing it up, even though it's just me and him. Like we're going to go pretty hard. So I am looking forward to that.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure this is what everyone tuned in to hear about.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Thanksgiving for me is like my mom's side of the family. They would do basically a family reunion every Thanksgiving. It was like 70
That's
plus
awesome.
people, this massive thing. And it was Thanksgiving to me is generally like it's awful. Like it's all the awfulness of family getting together with politics and like drama about stupid things and people arguing about. We have a tradition of seeing a movie after and who gets to pick the movie. All this just
that's always a nightmare. Always.
But somehow I like it's quintessential family. Like I love it. Yeah. I love the comfort food. I love the football. I love the whole thing. So Thanksgiving for me is top tier of holidays, but definitely this year it's going to be a little interesting because doing Thanksgiving at our house, and then we are hopping on a plane to fly to New York. I'm going to be covering the Jets Seahawks game and bringing the family with us because my wife, her dad is in Long Island. So kind of making it a family trip, but it's going to be a little different this year. Speaking of little,
New York,
sorry, go ahead.
Is the time between Christmas and the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is the best time to be in New York. It's like my favorite time to spend time there. It's just like walking around, all the windows, just like the way the city feels. So I'm a little bit jealous of that. I haven't been to New York in a while now, and I'm feeling like a little itch to get back.
I don't know if I'd recommend going to watch the Jets or Giants play being the reason right now.
Yeah. Also, East Rutherford, New Jersey is not New York City during that time period.
True.
So I know those hotels over near the Meadowlands a little bit too well based on my training camp travels every year. And I will say that's a slightly different vibe than staying in Manhattan for a weekend.
That could not be more true. So Robert, everyone's gonna be dying to talk about the Seahawks game, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. But before we do that, I really, I got the pleasure of watching your Bears play against the Vikings, and did not know what to expect from that game. And I'm curious your thoughts. I kind of left with a little bit of the vibes of the Seahawks versus Rams, where the Seahawks lost that game. But the things that really matter about this season for the Seahawks is the play of the defense. And that defensive performance against McVay and the Rams, I left feeling encouraged. Your Bears drop a game against the Vikings, painful game. But I thought Caleb Williams had maybe his best game, one of his best games, some of the best throws I've seen him make. The offense seemed promising at times. How did you feel coming out of that game?
No, I was floating. I mean, the wins and losses matter very little. The only reason I care whether they win or lose is because I want guys to remain bought in through the end of the year so we can have potential performances like this on offense. What it actually means for like the playoff push, any of that stuff, I truly do not care because this is over. The season is inconsequential. It's all about what happens in 2025. And so him looking good, and I've said this a bunch of times, but these not being negative, not having a negative impact on him in terms of like his development, right? Are these games detrimental to his overall trajectory in the sense that these are bad experiences? Like you go watch that New England game, the Arizona game, those are bad games. Like you don't want to stack up too many of those because then quarterbacks get ruined. So that was my concern after those two games. And then they fire Shane Waldron. And then the last two games, the game against the Packers last week was really nice. This was, in my opinion, easily the best performance he's ever had as a pro. Like playing on time, 4 or 5 wow throws. The one outside the pocket is the one to DeAndre Swift is the one people are going to point to. That's an insane play. I like that. That's fun because I like that. I want him to be playing with confidence. And I think that's what those plays instill. And it's fun to see him let it rip outside of the pocket a little bit. But there are 3, 4, 5 throws in this game over the middle of the field in traffic where he's just firing laser beams. And that to me is the most encouraging part of this. Him playing on time, in structure, navigating that space. I mean, just the best he's ever played as a pro, and to do it against what has been the best defense in the NFL this year, you couldn't be happier if you're a Bears fan, I think, despite what the end result ended up being.
Yeah, that was exactly my take. I have somewhat derisively referred to Caleb Williams as a trick shot artist. He's kind of like the dude perfect of quarterbacks. Like he can make throws that you never know anyone else can make, but when you ask him to do the normal stuff, it's not always there. I thought he did both of those things, blended them as well as I've ever seen him do it. And so that was really encouraging as a Bears fan. As a Seahawks fan who's kind of looking ahead to that Thursday night game, hoping that maybe it doesn't sustain when we get there, but we'll see. It's an interesting thing to watch. The NFL
I've had such
Caleb
a weird experience with that game because I was going to go to it, right? I was going to go to the game, and then I was like, oh, there's no way I go to that game. And now after yesterday, I'm like, maybe we go to that game. Maybe we go watch the Seahawks play the Bears. I've gone back and forth on it like 3 different times over the last 3 weeks. My wife is going to be furious when I tell her. I was like, oh no, we should go. We should go again.
Well,
she's never been to an NFL game, and it was going to be her first one. And so I like built it up for her. And then after the Washington game and the Arizona game, I was just like, we can't go anymore. That's not going to be fun. But now I'm kind of back and forth about it.
Well, it's funny. I don't know if you feel this way as well, but like the fact that you and I have been talking all season, the Seahawks and the Bears have had these like high highs and low
it's the NFL,
lows,
man.
Right? What is your mostly impartial take of what you've seen from the Seahawks the last 3 weeks and what you saw yesterday against the Cardinals?
It didn't surprise me that necessarily, because I think that you and I both felt this coming a little bit after the last couple games. I mean, I go
Mhm.
back to that Rams game, and we were talking about what they were doing against the run, and you watch that front, and those guys are defeating one-on-ones when they're given them in against the pass, against the run, and then what they've done from a pass rushing plan perspective over the last couple weeks. I don't know if we talked about it on this show. I think I might have seen the stat after I talked to you last week, but they had 10 unblocked pressures in their previous 2 games before this game against the Cardinals, according to Next Gen. And I think a lot of that is what Ernest Jones has given them, just how creative they are with some of the simulated pressures that they're running. And so I felt this building. And then yesterday, it all comes together in just an incredibly impressive way. And this is kind of not dismantling a top 10-ish offense, but
Mhm.
as to the first month of the season, this is kind of what I expected them to be. Like, you look at the personnel up front, and it's like, I can get behind this. You got different body types. They got guys that can win in different ways. The concern was always going to be what was going to happen at linebacker, even when they were rolling. And you watched that game yesterday, and just the physicality that Ernest Jones plays with, and just how downhill he plays against the run, the length, the frame that he has. It just feels like a very different unit because of what they have at linebacker now. And you combine that with the way the front played over the first month of the year, and this is the final results. And it's hard not to get excited about that, considering the talent that they have and considering the track record of the guy calling defensive plays for them.
When you and I've talked about coming into this offseason, or coming into this season, the offseason that they had and some of the questionable choices they made, I went back and looked, and Mike Macdonald was hired January 31st. Ryan Grubb and Adam Dirty were hired February 13th. Free agency started March 13th. I'm wondering, Robert, like I've posited this, and I'm curious your thoughts, that the personnel department had to kind of make some choices without full understanding of what the coaching staff knew and wanted. But if you think about what's happened in season, it's almost been like offseason 1.5. You get Roy Robertson Harris, you get Ernest Jones, you let go of Tyrell Dodson and elevate Tyrese Knight, you play Kobe Bryant, move after move after move. It seems like this is maybe evidence of a fusion happening between personnel and coaching staff that might not have been possible during the offseason.
I think that's right. And, this happens in the NFL. And it's always funny. I joke about this. Any coach who tells you they think they know how the season's going to go, like if you're talking to them during training camp and you're like, this is who we're going to be on offense. This is who we're going to be on defense. This is how it's all going to play out. And they say it with a pretty defined level of confidence. You should be wary of that. You should be very skeptical of that, because they don't know what's going to happen. And the guys who admit that they don't know are always the ones that I start paying attention to a little bit more, and I start believing them a little bit more. And I think that comes with a lot of respect on my end. And so this happens for any team. Like, it's hard to understand exactly who you're going to be and why. And especially for a front office that's working with a coaching staff for the first time, when you have a month to figure out, this is the system we're going to run, these are the types of players that we want, this is who is available. It's always going to be a sort of mishmash. And even Mike Macdonald's first year in Baltimore, they traded for Roquan Smith halfway through the season. And when they did that, it unlocked a certain version of that offense in the back half of the year. And I don't think Ernest Jones is Roquan Smith from a skill set perspective, but I think what he's bringing to that defense, he makes it feel like a markedly different unit. And sometimes it takes time to understand and to learn what players you need in some of those roles. And I think that they've gotten a much better handle on that.
We're talking to Robert Mays of The Athletic, brought to you by Pagliacci Pizza. Make sure you take advantage of the very limited time Delicata Squash Pizza. It is amazing, and I know Robert would get it if he could. Robert,
I sure would.
Yeah, I know you would. Talk to folks about this Arizona offense, because not everyone had paid attention to the Cardinals coming in, and they hadn't been that good last year. They had faced a series of very good defenses over the last few weeks and put up a lot of points. How impressive was it to do what the Seahawks defense did to this particular offense?
Incredibly impressive. I mean, this is like a top 8-ish unit if you think about the way that they were playing coming into this game and the way that it felt over the last few weeks. And I think it was all kind of coming together for them in a way that was very cool to see. You have playmakers. I think that they finally understood. It was interesting to watch the process with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think early in the season, if I have a feel for this right, they were using him as more of just like a traditional X, your boundary guy, 3-by-1, and seeing what he could get away with in that role. not trying to create separation for him just by design and deployment. And I think over the last few weeks, they're like, all right, maybe he can't necessarily thrive in that role. Let's start moving him around a little bit more. You combine that with Trey McBride, you have really decent weapons in the passing game. The offensive line is not a good unit, which we can talk about. They're just deployed very well. The design of the running game is very impressive. It's layered, it's varied. They do a ton of different stuff, and they live off play action because of that. They don't want to be in pure dropback situations. So they were able to mitigate the offensive line concerns by design and just the structure of the offense. And that running game, because of that, is really good. Like they're just a really, really good running team for the most part because it's a well-constructed running game, not necessarily because they have maulers up front. And the last element of it, Kyler Murray was playing the best football of his career coming into this game. We know what Kyler can do out of structure. There have been times in his career where Kyler's really been able to push the ball downfield, create explosive plays. His work from the pocket, and especially in dirty pockets, what he was doing in that Jets game, it's the best I've ever seen him play. And I think that step forward from him combined with everything else made this offense feel like a slightly different beast. And again, they just got dismantled yesterday by the Seahawks team. And I think that says a lot about where Seattle is right now.
Well, if I had told you that the Seahawks were going to hold, if I could go back in a time machine after, let's say, the Bills game for the Seahawks and told you that they were going to hold Kyler Murray and James Conner to a combined 17 yards rushing, while also having a 43% pressure rate, which was a season high against any Cardinals opponent, what would you have said to me back then if I had told you that was going to be the case?
Did they trade everyone on the team? Is it a completely different roster than the one that we were looking at in week 6? Because that's what it felt like a little bit yesterday. And again, you watch it. It's all across the board. Obviously, Leonard Williams had probably the game of his life. I don't think I've ever seen him dominate a football game like he did yesterday, but everybody was getting in the mix. John Reed had his moments. The linebackers played really well. I thought that, they had a couple unblocked pressures just by virtue of how they were mugging guys up on the line of scrimmage. I think they had a really good sense of how they wanted to attack protections. It was just a complete performance. And I think that you see a team that understands what it wants to be and is finally settling in on that side of the ball. And considering the talent and the coaching and the potential of those things, I think that's a scary proposition.
It seems maybe not coincidental that we're starting to see Devin Witherspoon emerge as a playmaker over the last 3 games once everybody else starts doing their job properly. What are you seeing from this guy who still is not piling up the big numbers, but seems to be impacting every game the last 3 weeks?
He's just a banshee. I love watching him play. I mean, he's just giving you something physicality-wise, mindset-wise, and the plays that he's making that you just don't really see from nickel corners that often. And he's a weapon, right? That's the whole idea of drafting a guy like that in the top 5 is that he can become that sort of player for you, where he transcends what we typically come to understand from a nickel defender. And that's what he's been able to do. And that's what he was able to do yesterday. He makes that pick 6 happen. That happens because of him on that play. And then there was a play early in the game where he takes on a guy on the edge and gets a TFL. It's like, this is a guy, again, that was drafted in the top 5 as a corner, and watching him play like that and make those sorts of plays where he's subtly impacting the game in ways that are kind of atypical from what we come to expect from players at that position. I think that's what's so impressive about watching him.
As impressive as the defensive performance was yesterday, offense was pretty hard to watch again. And it seems like this is a team that's really trying to figure out how to run the ball and not necessarily always doing a great job of it. What did you see on the other side of the ball for the Seahawks?
It just feels like they're scrambling for answers. What does this team do well? What would your answer be on offense?
It used to be tempo and spreading people out and letting Geno kind of make the right choice in those moments. That used to be the strength. I don't think that even seems like, as of now, based on what Geno said yesterday, it seems like defenses are just dropping guys into coverage and playing zone, and they're not able to find answers right now.
Yeah, it's such a strange place to be when you have a quarterback who I still like a lot. You have pass catchers that can absolutely affect the game, and it just doesn't seem like they have anything that they can consistently rely on right now. And it's not necessarily surprising. when you have offensive line concerns and you're scrambling at that position for the entire season, I think that can leave offensive coordinators and play callers chasing their tail a little bit. And that's what it feels like right now. Because I'm sure in Ryan Grubb's mind, it's like, yeah, we want to run the ball. And we want to run the ball. We want to take something off of our quarterback. We want to be able to kind of make things a little bit easier on the offense overall. And then they try running the ball and they can't do it. And so it's very easy to be like, why are we doing this? Like, let's just throw back in the garbage. Let's lean on what was working before. And I think you kind of start this vicious cycle where running the ball is a struggle. We go back to dropping back 45 times a game. But we know that that's going to come with its own downsides because we're leaving a quarterback on an offensive line that are struggling out to dry. And so I think that's kind of where they are right now, is that they're grasping at straws and really struggling to find what the right answer is.
If you were to ask Mike McDonald, I think what he would tell you is that they're going through on the run offense what they did go through on the run defense, that it's a process, that they're now committed to it. They have to do it and repeat it in order to find it, and that these are puzzle pieces that will come together. I think that's the most optimistic view, because if they can, I do buy that you have to work through it on running game to, like, there's a lot of coordination, a lot of chemistry that has to be developed. It takes time.
2 new stars in the offensive line.
And now 3 with Anthony Bradford out. But it feels like, again, those puzzle pieces are pretty far scattered across in order for them to come together. Do you see any indications that this could follow a similar path and that they could find this over the next few weeks?
I don't think it'll ever be at the level that the defense was at yesterday, but I do think with a little bit more time together and a little bit more cohesion, yes, it could potentially get better. Or they can just run that little middle screen to JSN 16 times a game and see if that's how you can build the entire offense. That's another option.
I love the snark. I mean, that feels.
Listen, I love that play. I if they want to do that all the time, I'm a huge JSN fan. I'm heavily invested in JSN in 2024 fantasy football. So every single time they run that, good things happen for me.
That feels very Madden-esque, where you find a play and you just spam the heck out of it.
That's exactly right.
And it's like, no. There's got to be more. Like, the kernel of why that play is working, there are a dozen plays in close proximity to that you could be adding to the offense or calling. And so it is
just
a little
more screens of any kind.
More screens.
Yes.
Swing passes to your, like, in the flat to Kenneth Walker, who can make anybody miss a dozen different ways. Like, yeah, it feels like it's harder than it needs to be. And I don't exactly understand why. And if you could ask Ryan Grubb a question to kind of, like, understand, like, what his process is, what would you want to know?
It's a really good question. I think it would just be, how are you trying to make things easier on your players, right? Like, if you can just lay out to me how I'm going to take a little bit of the burden off of you here. And I think that's what the best coaches do. And the best coaches are very open about that, right? It's like, all right, for the most part, everyone's going to have a hard down every once in a while. How can we put the hard downs on our best players, and how can we lift everybody else by virtue of what we're trying to do design-wise, plan-wise, et cetera? So how are you trying to make the game easier for your guys? That would probably be, like, the number one question I would ask. And I'm sure he would have a good answer to that, right? Like, Ryan Grubb is a capable, successful football coach who is not a dumb man. So I'm just curious what the answer to that would be, because right now it just doesn't seem like they have an easy one.
When the Seahawks turn their attention to the Jets, who are coming off a bye week and coming off of all sorts of things, is this a trap game? How good are this? How dangerous, I should say. How dangerous is this Jets team still?
Part of me wants to say not very, just because of the state of what the defense has looked like recently. But they still have enough talent up front where, against a bad offensive line, they can make the day long for you. And again, Kyler had to make some pretty tough throws in muddy pockets in that game where, the Cardinals offense was rolling. And the Cardinals offensive line, while not a good group individually in terms of talent, is still a better group than what the Seahawks have trotted out this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be a little bit concerned about what this Jets front could potentially do to the Seahawks offensive line, and how that might make a game that probably shouldn't be that scary a little bit scarier for Seattle.
Do you see the Jets offense being capable of exploiting what you've seen from the Seahawks defense in any way? Or let me ask it a different way. What do you think the Jets' best opportunity is on offense to exploit what the Seahawks are presenting on defense?
I think you can still probably get the corners in like one-on-one situations, right? Like Tariq Woolen's had an up and down year. If he's playing a little bit better recently, if you can get Josh Dobe isolated on Devontae Adams a couple different times, personnel-wise, as I think about the defense, that second outside corner spot and just some of the volatility from Woolen is probably where I would go. I don't think the Jets have the personnel or the makeup to kind of establish themselves on the ground. So I think it would be about trying to hit a couple explosives against the secondary that, while playing better and more solidified in terms of who's playing what role, is still probably the thing I would go back to.
There are some reports. I think Diana Rossini had a report that Aaron Rodgers may not continue as a starter. They might put him on IR. There's all sorts of things coming out. Other people saying that that's overblown. It's not true. What do you think is going to happen with Aaron Rodgers the rest of the year in New York? What do you think should happen?
I think they should probably just let him play out the year and then just see what things look like in the offseason. You know, do you have a conversation with him where it's like, listen, we are at a place now where our timeline no longer aligns with where you're at. We don't need a 41-year-old, 42-year-old quarterback. Like, that's probably not the answer. Do you want to go somewhere where their window aligns with where you're at in your career? You have one more shot. I think that would probably be the best answer and the best solution for both sides. And I think that's probably the way that it's trending.
We can't do this show without our weekly Schadenfreude about the 49ers. The only thing Seahawks fans like as much as the Seahawks victory is a 49ers loss. Obviously, they were missing all sorts of folks, missing their quarterback as well. Talk a little bit less about like how they played yesterday, but the vibe there and the state of that team. Are they in danger of kind of like losing themselves, not just losing games, but kind of losing their way? Do you think that locker room is in trouble?
I probably wouldn't go that far just because there's so much built up equity in that building. They've seen themselves succeed so many times that I think it would really have to go off the rails for that to happen. And even if it's been disappointing and I feel like there's been something missing from them all year, it's not a disaster. Right? Purdy, if he gets back next week, I anticipate that they'll be okay on offense. They've been okay on offense. You know, they beat a decent Bucs team 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. The defense will play better with Nick Bosa and will play better when they're not playing against the Packers. The Packers offense is a very good group. It's one of the best 5 offenses in the league. I just think that they'll be mildly disappointing for the rest of the year. I don't necessarily see them careening off of a cliff. The question then becomes, as you head into next year, what do you look like? Who can you still afford? What does that core look like? Your all-world left tackle is 36 years old. He's been banged up this year. The last few games hasn't really looked like himself, nursing that ankle injury, missed yesterday's game. So I just think that's the biggest question is like, all right, this didn't work. Can we circle the wagons a little bit, see what we can maintain roster-wise heading into next year, make a somewhat soft pivot, maybe a couple away from a couple of these guys, but still be a contender in 2025 with most of the core that we've come to know in San Francisco? And I think that becomes the biggest question.
The Rams, a team that I know has piqued your interest from the beginning of the season and then even during the season when they kind of got healthier. Rough game last night against the Eagles, who look like a buzzsaw of late. Where do you see this Rams team?
I just think that they have too many flaws, you know, and just based on when we said this on our show yesterday, if you look at portions of seasons and just stretches where the Rams offense has been rolling since they traded for Matthew Stafford, it almost completely aligns with what the pass protection has looked like during that stretch. You know, when their pass protection has been good, they've been an incredible offense, like a top 5-ish offense. When their pass protection has struggled, they have not necessarily been that sort of team. And that's what's been happening recently. You know, no Rob Havenstein last night, the right tackle struggling. They have a left tackle who's never been great in pass protection, but when he's now your 3rd best offensive lineman instead of your 5th, then the hierarchy changes and it becomes a little bit more of a concern. And I think that they've just been struggling to figure out the right combination. You go out, you spend a ton of money on Jonah Jackson in free agency. He's hurt for most of the year. You bring him back, throw him in at center on Monday night against the Dolphins. The offensive line looks like a mess. Then you yank him again. It just seems like they've been chasing answers in that area specifically. And you watch them play against the Eagles last night. Sometimes you want to make it more complicated than it is. The Eagles were better up front. The Eagles were better up front and had Saquon Barkley. That was the entire story of that game. And even if that's not always going to be the case for the Rams on defense, because their front is very good, but it's still an undersized group. They still don't have very good linebackers. So I just think that there are specifics about how that team is built, where teams that are a little bit more solid up front can take advantage of them. And I think that's exactly what happened with Philly yesterday. And to a degree, that's what happened when they played the Seahawks 2 weeks ago, when they were trying to run the ball and couldn't. So I think it's back to the drawing board a little bit for that team. And considering the age of their quarterback and even the age of guys like Cooper Kupp and kind of where they are in their build, it's going to be an interesting offseason for them for sure.
Well, you call out the offensive line. They spent a lot of money. They did the opposite of what the Seahawks did. They spent a lot of money specifically on the interior offensive line. They also spent a second-round pick on Steve Avila last year. And not everybody was available last night, but that offensive line looked as overwhelmed as the Seahawks line has at times. Still, I would take what they've done for most of the year over what the Seahawks have done, but that's a tough pill for them to swallow. Last question I have for you, Robert, and we're talking to Robert Mays of The Athletic Football Show, brought to you by Pagliacci Pizza. If you took these 4 NFC West teams right now, the easy question to ask is who's your money to who you put your money on to win the division? I don't set that aside. But if you took those 4 teams and you had a round robin tournament right now between those 4 teams, who do you think wins? They've all got flaws, they've all got strengths. Who do you think wins that tournament?
Where are the games played? Is it a neutral field inside?
Neutral field. Let's call it a neutral field.
If the neutral field is inside, I might pick Arizona.
Okay.
If the neutral field is outside, I might pick the Seahawks. And maybe I'm weighing too much on yesterday's game. But I'm still a person that when it comes down to it, if it's a coin flip, I'm going to pick the offense. I just think that offense is a little bit more consistent. I think that you can just rely on offense game to game a little bit more than you can on defense. And I still think that among that group, Arizona's offense has looked the most consistent over the last month or so, yesterday aside. So the fact that their offense has been able to really thrive this season with the way that they're built, that's probably what I would say. But give me a week. If the Seahawks continue to play like this on the other side of the ball and Geno makes 3 more throws against whoever they're playing, I could easily pick the Seahawks. I can't remember a division like this where typically when you're sitting there at Thanksgiving and everyone is like 6-5 or 5-6, it's some awful version of the NFC South or the NFC East. You're like, these teams are all garbage. Like, I don't care who wins this division. It truly doesn't matter to me. I want to pretend it doesn't exist. This is not that. Like, I actually think that there's a lot of good football potentially to be played in this division, even though they're all 6-5 and 5-6. And I just can't really remember a situation like that. It's just a very different feel to what's going on right now. It's good chaotic, not bad chaotic, which is not always the case when you look at the standings that look like this. Yeah, really, really well said. Robert, what can folks look forward to from you guys coming up this week on The Athletic? Same schedule as normal. Our preview show heading into the weekend will still run on Friday, but it'll just be a little bit truncated because we're going to be recording it a day early. Nothing on the Thanksgiving games. We're taking that off. You guys all should too. So that's really all I got. And we got our recap show for week 12 is available right now. We got a midweek show coming on Tuesday evening into Wednesday. Dane Brugler, our draft guy at The Athletic, is going to be joining us to talk about the draft class, rookies, etc. And then our week 13 preview will be on Friday. Robert, thank you so much. It's been great. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope the food is everything you want it to be. It's up to me and my brother, so he will bring it. I know that he will bring it. He's making a duck, which I'm very much looking forward to. So I'm excited to see him pull out all the stops, but it should be a good day. Enjoy it with your family. Well, appreciate it. And everybody, make sure you follow Robert and check out the Athletic Football Show for great coverage. Also, it's not Thanksgiving yet, so head on over to Pagliacci Pizza. Grab one of the Autumn Harvest pizzas, roasted delicata squash layered with roasted Brussels sprouts, mozzarella and Parmesan over roasted garlic oil.
or you can go just for the pepperoni, which is what I tend to go for. They also still have the caramel apple crumble gelato. It's amazing. You will love it. I definitely enjoyed it myself. So head on over to Pagliacci Pizza. And if you sign up at hello.pagliacci.com/hawk-blogger, link is in the description of the video, you can get access to exclusive deals on Pagliacci Pizza throughout the year. So take advantage of that as well. All right. So good stuff from Robert, as always. I see some people talking about duck in chat, and there's different perspectives. Actually, there was one year that we went to a relative's house. They served turducken. And if you haven't had that before, turkey, chicken, and duck all within one another. That was interesting. I'm somebody that just feels like turkey gets a bad rap. I think if you're expecting turkey to be some amazing meat, then yes, you're going to be disappointed. But I'm a turkey briner, not brine. I feel like I every year get a nice moist turkey. It tastes great. And turkey is a vehicle. It is a vehicle for the better foods of Thanksgiving. It is a vehicle for candied yams. It's a vehicle for mashed potatoes. It's a vehicle for stuffing and cranberry sauce. Like, it's just part of the texture. It is not the star of the show. So, you know, I know some people, like, they claim they make fantastic turkeys. Everyone loves the deep fried turkey. I've heard that a bunch of times. I've seen how many people have burned down their houses with it too. That's fine. I'm sure it's great, but like, I've been very happy with the turkeys we've made of late. And in fact, I'm gonna have to make a trip to get our brining solution and the brine bag and get it all ready so we can start getting that turkey prepared for Thursday. Let me take a second to give you guys a little bit of a programming note for this week, because I'm still figuring out exactly how this is gonna work. I make all the food in my family for Thanksgiving, pretty much. Like myself, my oldest son, Isaac, he'll make some food as well. My mother-in-law will make some food, but I will be cooking Thursday morning. I think there's a chance I will still do a live show. There's also a chance I will pre-record a show and have it do an instant premiere, so you can all watch it at the same time. You can chat together if you want, but it may not be live. Friday morning, for sure, I can tell you that will not be a live show because I will be on a plane. I don't think I'll be able to do it at night or in the morning. So Mike Sando and I are going to find time, and we're going to record that show ahead of time. So that will definitely be an instant premiere Friday morning. So we will still have the streak alive of Hawk Blogger Mornings with new Seahawks content every single day. It won't always be live, but it will be live 99% of the time. So I'm just going to work around the holidays as best I can. I will be in New York with family over the weekend, so I also have to figure out Saturday. We'll make it work. It'll happen. And then Sunday, I will be at East Rutherford at the Meadowlands for the game. So normal stuff there. And we'll figure out what we can do for that, as well as post game. And then Monday, I'll still be in New York. So it'll be relatively normal. Tuesday, I'll be flying back. So we'll have to figure out Tuesday as well. So it's going to be a little bit chaotic. The best way to stay informed about when and what is happening with this show is to make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you've clicked the bell to get notified when we go live. And we are just like I don't know, 10, 15, something like that, subscribers away from the 13,000 mark. So if you haven't clicked subscribe, go ahead and do it. It just takes a moment to do it, and appreciate it. So for the rest of the show, I want to spend a few minutes just kind of talking about what I saw in this game and what my questions are going forward. Before I get there, let me just recognize Rob Gregerson gave I think it's a super chat. Did not ask a question, but I appreciate that. Will Sladich, super chat says, bought a last second ticket to the game. Atmosphere in the stadium was electric. Signs of the return of the 12th man. I'm glad you brought this up, Will, and thank you for the super chat. So this was one of the things I was going to bring up, which was, you can even still hear it in my voice probably a bit. My ears were ringing for the first time after a game in a while. The team felt worth supporting. It felt worth the sacrifice of shredding your throat to scream for them, because the defense, I mean, it's so linked to defensive play. You're screaming when the defense is on the field. If the defense is awful, if you're screaming, and every time you're screaming at the top of your voice, the defense is getting gashed, it really, like, you know, yes, you could be the hardest core fan around and you just don't ever give up on your team. Fine. Like, you could decide that that's impressive. You know, I'm not going to say that's bad or good, but it is pointless. So, I mean, the reality is it's pointless. It's not making a difference. It felt like there was that collaboration back between fan and team in yesterday's game. And that was refreshing. It was nice to feel that back again. And it was like a rekindling of an old flame that, you know, like your high school sweetheart, you know, where you see that person and you kind of get the feelings back that you once had, or I don't know. I don't have that experience, but it seems like it would be similar to that. So it was just a familiar and welcome feeling to have back in that stadium. I think that the players and coaches had to feel it. They still haven't really felt what that stadium can be like when it gets going. And the way that you get back there is, to use Mike's parlance, stacking these games. The more times that this team plays that level of defense, the more times that they come home with a win, the more people will be in those seats, the more people will be eager to scream for them, the more that they will affect the game, which will improve the quality of the defensive play at home, which will increase the amount of people that want to cheer for it. So it is absolutely a virtuous cycle that they have control over, and they have to take ownership over. And to their credit, they have. And it wasn't the fans that lifted this team up to where they are. It was the coaches and players that turned around this season, and the front office that turned around this season from a defensive standpoint and made them worth the effort to cheer and attend those games. So that was great. It was really great to see. And I think I've seen this time and again. I've been a season ticket holder for long enough that I've seen the ebbs and flows of the different eras of team and the relationship with the fan base. And I've seen it wane and I've seen it wax. And so, like, it feels like, I mean, it's just the smallest little tidbit of growing towards something important and growing towards something that matters. So I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but I do just want to recognize that it was different yesterday, and that was cool. So great super chat there from Will. Old School Seahawk, our moderator and great contributor, has gifted 10 Hawk Blogger memberships. Thank you so much for your continued generosity and participation in the community, Old School. If you get one of these memberships, please consider giving one as well. I like to pay it forward where possible, and really, really appreciate that from Old School Seahawk. So other things that kind of stood out for me in this game. I felt like the offensive line took a step back, and, you know, I know everybody's got different feelings about PFF. I continue to use them and find them directionally valuable. For my eyes, the grades match the performance in this case. Charles Cross was the top-rated offensive lineman for the Seahawks, and it was a 63.6 grade. The rest of the line, forget Anthony Bradford, who only played 4 snaps. The rest of the line, Olu, 58.3 grade. Christian Haynes, 57.4 grade. Abe Lucas, 48.6 grade. Not great. Not great. And that was, you have to wonder if part of what Ryan Grubb came into that game thinking is, oh, well, we've got a new offensive line that's capable of better things. Maybe I can dial up some of these plays that I couldn't think to dial up before. And then that first half happened, and they were just getting beat with 4-man pressures against a poor pass rushing team. And so that had to be disappointing. Laken Tomlinson certainly had a very rough start to the game. He got a little bit better as it went on, but rough. But, Abe Lucas was not nearly as good this game. His pass blocking was okay, but he gave up a couple of pressures. Christian Haynes gave up a couple of pressures, and the run blocking was rough, guys. Like, there were a few moments where it looked like it was coming together, but generally speaking, it was very sporadic, and there was a lot of guys getting in the backfield. And one of the things I just want to call out, it wasn't just the offensive line. Pharaoh Brown, he had a 21.4 pass block grade yesterday. I mean, this is supposed to be one of the better blocking tight ends in the game. I thought he was atrocious at times in this game. His run blocking, it was better, but it was like 60.9 in zone blocking, 57.6 in gap. Like, he's not contributing a ton there. And I just I'm starting to wonder why he's out there, to be honest. I think I would rather see Tyler Mayberry at this point be getting snaps at tight end. I know what Tyler Mayberry can do, and he's not going to get a penalty that hurts your team the way Pharaoh Brown did. I don't know. I just think did not love what I saw from the tight end position in general, from a blocking perspective, especially in the run game. So that's continuing to be an issue. We've already talked about Ryan Grubb. I think there's absolutely problems on that side. Mike McDonald this morning on his show with Brock and Salk talked about that he sees the running game coming together. He sees signs of things on film, on tape, that are promising, that they're repeating them, that they need repetition, and that those things are going to start to click, and that he thinks they're going to get to the other side of this. That's what any coach would generally say. I said it on the postgame show last night. I saw some progress in the run game, and I knew that everyone was going to think I was crazy for saying it. I also saw all the warts, all the people getting into the backfield in the run game, and all the lost yards. So I'm not blind, but there were a few plays that were creative. There were a few plays that were well blocked, and all you sometimes need is like one or two run plays that you can return to, that you feel good about, that you block well, that just get 4 yards. Like, it doesn't have to be 50 yards, right? Like, you just feel like you can get 3 to 4 yards reliably, and then you can build from that. And I do see some signs that they might be getting closer to it. I'm not going to get into previewing the Jets game this early, but the Jets, for as good of a coverage team and a pass rush team that they can be, they are susceptible to the ground game. And I do think there's a chance for them to start, maybe leaning a little bit into that this week and getting a little bit closer to what they want to be on as a running team. I think what's happening on offense right now, Mike McDonald coming out of the bye week, I think he absolutely leaned in and said, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball more often. We're going to commit to this. Even if it's not working, we're going to do it. The Seahawks have run the ball on more than 40% of their offensive plays in 3 straight games. They'd only done it twice all year before that. So I think they're committing to it. I think they're committed to getting to the other side of this. The real question is, how quickly will they get there, and can they get there with this personnel group? We won't know that until we go through it. So that's the journey we're on right now, is that the defense is playing at an elite level, and that the offense needs to be carried by the defense until they can figure this new world order out. So that's kind of the state of things. I'm looking at FTN Fantasy, you can get promo code HBAM, gets you 15% off, less than $8 a month, gets you DVOA data, gets you Stats Hub, gets you all the stuff. The Seahawks are now, let me just double check this before I tell you guys to see if this is the latest data or whether it's still hasn't been updated yet. Seahawks. Seahawks defense was 14th in DVOA coming into this game. They are now 13th. Okay, so there is updated. 13th DVOA team in defense, 7th in special teams, solidly top 10 there, 17th in offense. And that feels about right. That feels representative. If you look at further on defensive DVOA for the Seahawks, they are 12th in pass defense. They are up to 15th in rush defense. So they're slowly kind of climbing from bottom of the league to middle of the league to upper third of the league. And if you really narrow, like if I go to EPA, I take a look at EPA right now, which at success rate, that kind of thing, and I just look over the last 3 weeks, where I think we all can say from a personnel perspective, from a scheme perspective, things are different. It's not just a random selection of games. This is a different Seahawks team during that period of time. Over that period of time, the Seahawks are number 2 in the NFL in running defense success rate. They are, let's see, from a rush EPA perspective, they are 4th. So they've been a top 5 run defense over the last 3 weeks. They have been a 15th ranked drop back success rate, 14th ranked drop back EPA. So so their coverage or their pass defense, top 15, but not great. I think, obviously you'd like to see that a little bit higher. And then as far as overall success rate, they are 8th, and overall EPA per play, they are 9th. So they have been a top 10 defense over the last 3 weeks. If we narrow that just a little further, because I haven't done this, I'm just curious, over the San Francisco and Arizona timeframes, if you just look at that, what do you get? Well, I'm guessing it's even better. The Seahawks are 7th over the last 2 weeks in EPA per play. They are 5th. They are a top 5 defense in success rate over the last 2 weeks. So there is... And by the way, over the last 2 weeks, they are a top 10 defense in drop back success rate and in drop back EPA. So the pass defense has also, followed the run defense in getting a little bit better. So the way I kind of put it, and I think I talked about it this morning in my Morning After article over there on hawkblogger.com, is I do care about making the playoffs. I do care about the division title. It's for bragging rights. It's for pride in the building and accomplishment and all that stuff. But I don't really, that's not the thing I care about most. I see it as a little bit of a distraction because you're not trying to build a team that's capable of losing in the first or second round of the playoffs. So if you focus too much on this division and on this playoffs, not that it will change much, but you're building too small of a foundation. Like, you're not trying to build like a Rambler home. Like, you're trying to build a palatial estate that will withstand every storm and every invader and will be able to be a like glowing example of what an NFL team should look like. In order to do that, the first thing here was to build a solid run defense. Like, like really to get down to the details, build a solid run defense. In order to do that, you had to build solid trench play. You had to build a defensive line. They've been making the right choices from a process perspective to build this tough physical team that you just can be proud of and that has the capability of doing some really fantastic things. But it's taken a little time. So now you're starting to build that out. From there, you want to be able to layer coverage on it. You want to be able to apply pressure to the quarterback. They've been able to do all of these things. The next thing that you really need to start being able to dream bigger, to have a bigger foundation, is to get the run game going. When I asked Mike Macdonald last week, if you could have anything make a jump on this team, what would you pick? What he answered was, I want us to get more takeaways, more turnovers. It's predictable. Mike Macdonald is always going to think about defense first. I mean, he just can't help himself. And that's why you hired him partially. My answer, and what I was waiting to see if he would say, is the run game. Because I don't think there's anything that can help this team become a significantly more dangerous group than if they can figure out how to get the run game going more consistently, to get Kenneth Walker to be a reliable threat every single week. Because right now, I mean, Kenneth Walker, he was the highest graded Seahawk on the team last week, despite putting up very few yards, because he must have forced, I actually want to look this up, he must have forced so many missed tackles in this game. I can't even imagine. Like, he forced 10 missed tackles yesterday. That is wild. And like, I'm trying to look. Yeah, that's a season high for him. I wouldn't even be surprised. Let's do this on the show live together. Let's see if he's ever done that in his career. Okay. He had one game, interestingly, against Arizona as a rookie in 2022 at home, where he forced 12 missed tackles. But this was the second highest number of missed tackles that Kenneth Walker has forced in his career. But it's almost to not, because there's just nothing there for him. He's missing tackles. He's breaking tackles to get back to the line of scrimmage or to get 1 yard. So you absolutely want to see this team find a way. And that's why, to me, the reason I'm couching this is the division and the playoffs don't matter as much to me. I am willing to sacrifice the playoffs in order to invest in figuring out this run game. Even if it means the offense is going to be hard to watch and is going to scuffle. I've seen this before. I've seen teams that you need to go through this process, this ugly process of just running your head into the wall over and over again and then finding your way through it. And so I'm willing to make that sacrifice because I think it's that important to what this team needs to be. Think back to the 2011 season where that team was lost. Their season was essentially lost. And then Tom Cable was able to convince Marshawn Lynch to go in there and start running the ball a little differently behind that line. Well, what happened that season? Well, they didn't make the playoffs. They ended up 7-9 that year, but they went from a team that was 2-6 to a team that finished 7-9, and they finished with, I want to read to you the rushing yards, okay? The rushing yards for that 2011 Seahawks offense with Marshawn Lynch, with a good offensive line, or like a well-paid offensive line, still had Max Unger. You had Russell Okung his second year. I think that might have even been his Pro Bowl year. Like, you had guys on that offensive line. They went, this is how the season went rush yards wise. 64 yards, 31 yards, 122, 53, 145, 68, 61. So in their first 7 games, 5 of them were under 70 yards rushing. It was atrocious. It was so hard to watch. From game 8 on, they were over 100 yards rushing in every game except for one. They were over 120 yards rushing in every game except for 3. And they had games of 174 yards, 178 yards, 145 yards, 162 yards. Like, they found themselves, but they kept doing it because Pete Carroll was committed to being a tough team that had a run offense. I think that's what we're going through right now. And so you need to see. I'm personally patient enough. It's very aggravating to watch, but I'm patient enough to see them find their way through it. What I'd be less excited to see is that they go and return to the passing offense, and maybe they get enough points and enough yards to win a division and get to the playoffs, but not do the hard work of becoming a reliable running team. I think that's building the wrong foundation. I think you're going to end up with a less interesting team on the other side. So hopefully that's clear about where I see this a little differently than maybe some, and maybe talk about it a little differently than some. Got a super chat here from Taker, says, if we host a wild card, who would you rather play, the Vikings, Commanders, or the Packers? I would hope for the Commanders. Packers game coming up is a huge test. Yeah, I generally would say the Commanders because I think that offense that they run is a little bit more predictable, and I think Mike McDonald would have a lot of answers for it. And I think the Commanders also have a very suspect defense that you could hopefully take advantage of. The Vikings are a very solid team. The Packers are a very solid to very good team. And so I think both of those teams are a step above the Commanders. Good question, though. Brian Masterson says, given what you're saying, if you could improve 5 positions on this team, what changes would you make? And is that enough to win a Super Bowl? Well, 5 positions is a lot, Brian. I would say, the positions I'd want to improve are right guard, left guard, first and second, for sure. I think just improving those positions can make a big difference. From there, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's other positions I'd really jump to. I would say quarterback play has to take a step forward. Like, I'm not saying that you need to go get a different person. I know some people would, but Geno's got to play differently than he's playing. He cannot make the mistakes he's making. And so that's probably the third position I would say. If you really are talking about a Super Bowl, he's not playing Super Bowl level quarterback. It's just not. And so that's a limiting factor for you. Maybe wide receiver. I think that they're not getting as much out of that group as you'd hope. So maybe there's a different type of receiver that you could inject in there, but maybe tight end would be in there, but it's hard to say. I think the easy ones are left guard, right guard, maybe center, depending on who is Olu Oluwatimi. Was he the San Francisco guy or was he the Arizona guy? But otherwise, that's where I'd go. Good question, Brian. All right, everybody. So I'm going to let you go on that note. We will have a Mike McDonald press conference later this afternoon. I have some questions for the coach. And then tomorrow we will have Mike Randall here to talk about the upcoming matchup with the Jets. I will do my tail of the tape on Tuesday. That'll be posted on hawkblogger.com, so keep an eye out on that. I will note that my streak continues. I think I've picked 5 straight games correctly, and I've picked every Seahawks game correctly other than the Detroit game and the Giants game this season. So all the extra time really studying these opponents, I think, has been paying off. We'll see where I end up with this Jets game. And then the other thing I'll bring up for folks is Real Hawk Talk. Wednesday night, we will be doing it. It'll be 6:00. Evan Hill will be back. Jeff Simmons will be back. So if you haven't already joined as a patron, patreon.com/hawkblogger, now is a great time to join. You can also gift memberships give a Thanksgiving gift. Why not give a Thanksgiving gift? Give a holiday gift. Gift a year subscription to patreon.com/hawkblogger. Then every single week you get to ask us in the Slack channel a question that we will answer at Real Hawk Talk. So make sure you take advantage of that. Otherwise, give the show a like, click subscribe. Let me tell you the latest number because we're getting right to it. We are 5 subscribers away from 13,000. So 5 of you click subscribe right now. We will hit 13K. Please click over to YouTube if you're over somewhere else watching. Click subscribe. It takes a second. I would appreciate it. Until I see you guys next, I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and on Blue Sky at Hawk Blogger. This has been episode 246 of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Thank you to Pagliacci Pizza for bringing us Robert Mays each and every week.